Hi everyone, welcome to iAfrica Media. I'm your host, Malope, all the way from South Africa. And of course, today, I'm hanging out with my good old friend. She's going to introduce herself to you guys, but when I met her, she was just Nabeela.
Just Nabeela.
But you will hear today, in such a short space of time, how her title has changed. Today, I'm at University of Johannesburg, the Optometry department, and it is a privilege to actually do this for the first time with you. We always running past each other at one stage, saying hi, but to sit down with you and actually have a conversation about optometry and your journey, I consider it to be a privilege. So thank you so much.
And thank you for having me.
For setting up time for this. But yeah, who are you? Because I know you as Nabeela, but who are you?
Do you want the official title?
I want the official title. How did that title come about? What do you do here at the University of Johannesburg? Actually, forget about this camera. Let's talk as colleagues, because I realized that what I thought I know about you is completely different from what you're currently doing.
Okay.
When I met you, you were in private practice.
Yes.
Working as an optometrist.
I had just qualified.
And just as I was coming back for a follow-up visit at your practice, at the practice that you're working at, they say that Nabeela is gone. She's at the University of Johannesburg working as a lecturer. And I'm like, lecturer? But she's so young. So who are you? Is your current title? And break it down for us in terms of how did you get to this part of your life where you're at?
So it started, we met, when was it? When I just qualified. Okay, so 2012.
2012,
I met you, I was in private practice.
Private practice, yeah, 2012.
I did it for 2 years, but I always wanted to study more. I always enjoyed the research part, but as an undergrad, you don't really know what research entails being an optometrist.
Okay.
You do maybe a fourth year small research project. You know, it takes like in a few subjects, but you don't really know what research in optometry really is. And I think that was what I was very interested in. So after my second year of private practice, I enrolled for my master's degree and I got accepted. And a position came available, an assistant lecturer post.
Before you even fast forward,
right?
It was a master's in what?
In color vision.
Masters in color
vision, yes. So
right here at the University of
Johannesburg.
Johannesburg.
University, yeah.
Okay.
So we had toyed with the different options, different topics, but color vision was quite interesting for me, and I don't think anyone has also done a master's in color vision.
I've never heard of that.
Well, at UJ.
For sure.
So that was very interesting. We had the Cambridge color vision test.
Okay.
Very, very interesting. So my supervisor, Prof. Ruben, said, why don't we play around with it, see how reliable it actually is, how repeatable it actually is, and we take it from there.
And you decided to do it full-time at the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
So initially I had started part-time, but then the assistant lecturing post became available. So that made me think I can do it full-time and I can be here, and then I can actually teach, which I also really enjoyed doing because I was a tutor as a third and fourth year student. So I was a tutor as well.
Wow.
So I was really interested in.
And the assistant lecturing position for which particular course in optometry?
So I had started lecturing general pathology for optometry. It was a second year for second years.
Okay.
But I'd also helped out, or I was doing the practical. So I was doing a second year optometry practical, third year optometry practical, third year contact lens practical. So basically, as an assistant lecturer, they gave you the opportunity to try out everything, get your hands messy, and see what you actually enjoy. And the university gave me a good opportunity to do that.
Sounds like it was a fantastic opportunity.
We laughed and we said, you know what, we're the skivvies of this place. But it was very, very interesting.
And you don't join us for tea.
So it was really interesting because we laughed and I said, oh, you know what, I'm like the skivvy of this place. But you don't understand how much I learned in those 3 years of doing my master's, but then also being the assistant lecturer for everybody and anybody who needed help.
Wow, that's like the ideal.
That is the ideal.
Academic
it gave me the
environment.
foundation. Yeah.
Because you're getting involved with all the different components.
So I mean, at one stage I did a BV practical, and then at one stage I did contact lens practical, and it gave me the foundation to see what specialty did I really enjoy.
Wow.
So that was then, and then I qualified with my master's.
Now let me backtrack.
Okay.
When did you get married?
I got married the first year that I started working, so in the fourth year, beginning of 2012. Yeah.
I think
literally I qualified.
this happens to all female
I
optometrists
think so.
globally.
I think
They
so.
all get married
It's like
in
just
their
the
final
next
in their
step.
final
In the
year,
final year.
and immediately after some of them get married whilst they in their final year or
Right.
first year
Of working.
of working. Wow,
Yeah.
very
So
interesting.
it was literally
Alright.
Feb.
So obviously there was a lot of pressure on
So
you
it was
then.
change. It was change. It was not only now Nabeela the student, it was Nabeela the student, working optometrist, but then also wife.
Wow. Wow.
But with that comes a lot of support as well.
All right.
So
So
you
2
have
years.
support.
Now, this is you graduate 2012,
Right.
2013, 2014, you're working full
Private
time,
practice.
private practice.
Learned a lot there as well.
For sure, because you're obviously working for a very well-established
Well-established
practice, doing
yes.
extraordinary things in the community that it was located in. And now you
Became a
jump in.
practice manager for a while as well. So got to see the business side of things as well, which helped.
But this passion for research then led you
Outweighed.
to come here. All right. So you finished your
I finished my master's.
master's.
Cum laude.
Wow. Okay.
But finished my master's, and then I decided I can't stop here. I need to study more. I have to study more.
Wow.
And that's when I spoke to my supervisor, and we sat down, and he said, "Well, then let's do a PhD. You on steam. You in the emotions of it. Don't quit now, because if you take a break, you're gonna get lazy. So qualify and let's register." So I think I qualified. The graduation was in April, May, and then June I registered for my PhD.
Wow. Wow.
In between.
Wow. So you didn't want to break
I
that
didn't want to break.
momentum.
I didn't want to break.
You wanted to continue.
Yeah.
All right. So your
So that
PhD then became a PhD in what? Because I could imagine 3 years down the line of you having completed your master's cum laude,
Right.
you obviously are now into this academic environment.
Yes.
Your role would have changed during that period.
Yes.
When did that happen for you then to become a full-time
Lecturer.
lecturer at the university? And what subject then, because you were exposed to so many of those
Yeah.
courses, what subject did you end up lecturing
Right.
when you became a full-time lecturer, and when did that happen?
So then I qualified for my master's, and I decided to do my PhD as well, and that's when the role converted to lecturing post. So it was on condition. So it was an assistant lecturer on condition that you finish your master's and you register for PhD.
Because obviously the
So then it was
university
converted.
took a chance on you, obviously.
Of course.
You were so young, so it's like, how are you gonna lecture students that you were final year and they were like first year just
exactly.
a few years ago?
Exactly.
Right, so they took a chance on you. So the role then changed to become permanent.
Once I qualified for my master's.
All right, and so
Yeah.
what was your subject then that you were
Right, so
lecturing?
then I was still doing general pathology, which
Okay.
I still do, and then I was doing ocular pathology for
Ah.
3rd years. So then I realized that pathology is actually what I really enjoy, and it helps that my brother is an ophthalmologist.
Ah.
So that's now you know what our topic for discussion on the dinner table is. It's
Absolutely.
what did you see today?
Absolutely, I like
Yeah.
that. I like that.
So pathology, I think is both of our passions, and his side or his ophthalmology side kind of rubbed off on me and made me more interested in it. So that's when I did. Yeah, so I lecture ocular pathology
Okay.
for 3rd years, and then again, I spoke to my supervisor. So we said, what topic are we going to do now? Should we stick to color vision because we can carry on a PhD in color vision, or do you want to try something else? Do you want to do more refractive error, more optometry based? And we played around with a few ideas, and then at that time there was a new or novel based cell phone autorefractor, the Netra, that was just launched. I think it was very, very new. So we said, well, let's see how reliable this is. So we decided to take that. So it was the cell phone autorefractor, and let's compare it to a normal subjective refraction
Okay.
and retinoscopy and a table mounted autorefractor.
Wow.
So let's do those 4 measurements or 4 different methods. So partially objective, partially subjective, different techniques, and let's do our thesis on that.
Wow.
And that's this book over here.
Everyone. Nabeela this is her. She is now Dr. Hasrod.
Dr. Hasrod.
Wow. And how long did that take you?
So it was a baby and a pandemic later.
Wow. Second baby.
First baby.
First
One
baby.
baby and a pandemic later. So it took me 5 years.
5 years.
5 years, yeah.
Wow. Guys, this is what it takes. This is what you call vision, passion, discipline, sacrifice. So much has obviously gotten into you producing this. Firstly, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Your passion seems to be growing the more studying you're doing.
The more studying.
You're not getting tired of it. Because for me, I've never come across a young optometrist with so much passion. When I was a lecturer, I was coming from the University of the Free State. The academic team was fairly new, but the oldest person to me, or the lecturer, was 10 years. I think the youngest lecturer was 10 years older than me.
Right.
And that was like the youngest person from that academic team. So everyone else was a bit older, you know. So that's what I'm used to. But when I compared it to other universities, everyone was like much older.
Right.
So, and you are like a small individual. What are some of the challenges that you have experienced in your lecturing career that perhaps you were not experiencing in private, or were they similar?
The challenges are different. I think, as you said, age did play a part. So luckily, though, the support of being a student of the Department of Optometry and then going in, I think the lecturers know you and they know your capabilities. So it wasn't so much the staff component, but the students. So when you come in and you're only 3 years older than the class that you're giving a lecture to, they do kind of look at you and be like, does she really know what she's doing? Or sometimes it would be like, I am your friend and I am your age, but you also got to respect me in that sense that I am your teacher as well. So those were some of the challenges that I experienced.
And now obviously your title has changed.
And now the title
Have they started calling you Dr. Hasrod?
They have called me doctor. I still feel very overwhelmed by that because Dr. Hasrod in my head is still my brother. But
do you enjoy it?
Oh, I love it.
Because obviously you've worked hard for it. I know you to be one of the most humble individual that you could ever meet. But I'm sure, I'm even jealous, I don't like studying, but I mean, like, I would definitely like being called.
But it's just a different path to do a PhD and a research PhD. So you think it's difficult, but it's a completely different ballgame to sitting down and studying as opposed to developing a thesis, because it's a journey that you take. It's a hypothesis that you decide that you're going to take upon. It's analyzing the data and seeing, are you making sense? Is this what you think is going to happen? And if it doesn't, in your head trying to formulate why isn't it as I think it should be? And then discussing all the factors. So it's a journey that you can start off thinking, this is my topic and this is what my conclusion is going to be. And it can be completely different. But the most important or the most exciting part is the journey it takes you on.
With you having accomplished this now, what has it taught you about yourself? People that are watching who want to know more about the work that you have now obviously discovered and researched through you qualifying, how do they get access to this now? How do they, what's the next step for a person who's like, you know what, actually, this is such an interesting topic. I want to know more about it.
Yeah. So look, to know more about studying or the process of studying?
No, just the information that you have now.
Oh, so this is available on the UJ library databases. It's available to everybody, so they can just Google it. It was interesting for me because the cell-phone-based autorefractor is something that is handheld. You can carry it in your pocket. It's a little briefcase. So especially if you want to go out into the rural areas where it's difficult, it's difficult to lug around a normal autorefractor, right? And especially language barriers. So you're going to a rural area, how do I explain to a person that, listen, I want to do retinoscopy or I want to get a baseline? And this is so much easier. So you take your cell phone, you hook it up to the eyepiece, and you get a prescription. It's slightly over minuses, but so does an autorefractor, for example. But it gives you that good baseline. So this cell phone autorefractor that I found would be very helpful in a rural clinical setting when you want to do screenings of mass numbers and you want to be able to decide, this person does need readers, this person does need glasses, let's test further. Do you understand?
Let me ask you a different question. Do you think that there's enough young optometrists, newly qualified, who are having an interest for pathology? or studying further? Let me put it that way.
There is an interest for pathology. I don't find that there's an interest to study further. I think they're all intimidated by the word research.
Okay.
And I think that is what we're finding. We're finding when they hear that they have to write a thesis, they'd be like, oh, wait, is this for me? But they don't understand that the whole journey is not as intimidating as they think it should be.
You just have to get started.
You just have to get started. Find a topic, and you know what sometimes happens? You find a topic and you don't even like it, and that's okay. You can change your topic along the way. You can say, listen, this is what I wanted to do. This is actually what I found was more interesting, and take it from there.
Okay.
And also, what we've also realized is research in optometry, especially in South Africa, we are at the tip of the iceberg.
Really?
We are at the tip of the iceberg. I mean, with times changing, I mean, look at COVID. COVID has made optometry and the whole profession change, because now you're thinking about telemedicine, am I right?
100%.
You're thinking about how are we going to access people who now need to social distance? And how do we do that if we don't research?
Wow. So, how do we then encourage more people to come on this side?
So we try our best especially in fourth year, students of fourth year. Listen, don't be intimidated by the master's process. Don't be intimidated by the PhD process. And I think a key is maybe to do more research, articles in third year, get that going.
Okay.
So maybe in third year and fourth year, get the students to do articles that can be published. Because it also gives them incentive. Listen, I'm doing research, but my paper can get published.
So
and if it gets published, I'm out there.
It has never happened here in South Africa
Yeah.
with the conferences that would take place in South Africa,
Right.
where you've got students presenting a paper at
And it
local conferences.
Right.
But then you look at overseas,
And students come.
and it's such a norm.
Exactly.
I think it's the same conference that you attended. You're obviously
Yes.
already working.
Yeah.
You went with Dr.
Yes, at the World
Ibrahim,
Council of
Dr. Van Staden, Dr. What's his name again?
Alvin.
Yes.
Yes.
You guys went to the World Council of Optometry.
Yes.
But in that same year, if not the year before, there was a student from here,
Okay.
Tapiwe,
Yes.
who submitted
Her research.
a research paper,
Right.
but she's based in Canada now.
Right.
But she submitted a research thing, and she was like at the university in Canada where she's a lecturer.
Yeah.
It's such a norm for
For
students
students
to be
submit. Exactly.
participating and getting involved. So do you think that there's a huge gap in the market here,
I think so.
where we need to have all the 4 universities, students, third year level,
Yes.
getting in that habit?
And even if we do an inter-university conference, so you do that in your university. So what happens is interfaculty wise. So for example, all health sciences, the different departments, all their 40 students present to each other. So that's interdisciplinary. You can understand what a chiro student is doing, what a podiatry student is doing. But how cool would it be if the 3 universities get together and decide, or 4 universities,
Four universities,
get together and decide, listen, let's have a student conference.
You've actually broadened my thinking right now, because we have always been focusing so much on the optometrists,
But what about the students? Right.
on the continent, right? Bringing the optometrists from different parts of the continent together through iAfrica Media.
Yeah.
But the very same thing, it will be easier with even students,
With students.
where you've got regional stuff taking place in South Africa, and then
then-
the top 4
Yes.
competing with students in Botswana,
Yes.
Namibia. Okay, there's no universities there, but Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria. You know, it will be so amazing
And
in
so
doing
it's
something
an
every year.
African conference solely for students. So
Wow.
your third years, and anyone. So don't just say it's only third years and fourth years. If a first year is interested, let them write a paper and you know what? It should be at the level that they want to publish. And if they publish, it gives them incentive.
Wow, because that is automatically is going to increase the output of the
output.
type of students that you're going to be
Exactly.
producing from the different
Exactly.
institutions. Wow, look at you.
Optometry is not only clinical and practice.
I like that.
And I think we need to realize that there's a whole field in research that needs to be tapped into. And you can't only leave it for academia to do. You can't only leave it for academia. So there needs to be more optometrists, but also more students that are becoming more interested in the research
In the
process.
research part. And this is Africa. We can't rely in, and that was also one of the reasons why I sort of like started wanting to become an author.
Right.
Was because throughout my time in study, I never picked up one book from a local person.
Sure.
At the time, you
Right.
know. It was only once I had finished where Dr. Dirk Boysen's book on,
Contact lenses.
no, not the contact lens one, the
The
therapeutic
pharmacology
book,
one,
pharmacology
yes.
one, you know. And then I realized, but why? Okay, this is South African based, but you look at across the continent, we need more research being done
Exactly.
from the context of Africa.
Exactly.
Because, it's so.
And not only research in refractive error, for example, research in pathology, research in binocular vision, in the visual sciences, color vision as well. I mean, the fact that I was the only one who has a color vision master's.
It's weird, eh?
It's weird.
It's,
And I went to a color
and we
vision
shouldn't accept that.
You shouldn't.
We should celebrate you, yes, for sure.
Exactly.
But post celebrating you, we should, okay, guys, we need 10, 15 more
10 people
people
to do color vision.
to
Let's
do
have a
this.
color vision conference in South Africa. I went to so luckily one of my examiners invited me then after my master's.
Okay.
He said, why don't you come as a student? They gave me a student award to do a color vision course at Oxford. So I did that in 2018.
Okay.
I went for a little course at Oxford University.
Wow.
That was a big tick.
Wow.
And they weren't only optometrists. It was optometrists. It was a lot of computer science people, all interested in color vision.
Interesting.
And we all brought a little bit in because I gave them the optometry side, they gave me the computing side of color vision. There were scientists and engineers all at this conference and all students.
Wow.
We were only students.
Wow.
And I think that's what international universities strive for. They strive to instill that passion for research into students. I think we can get there.
A person could be sitting in Angola, in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, Egypt, thinking, can one really make a career out of the academic side of optometry? What's your answer to that? Because you're in this full time now.
Right.
It's a couple of years later. It's you get into that 10-year mark now, where you're going to be in academics for almost 10 years very soon. And you obviously are going to be here for some time because you realize that so much can be done through this particular aspect of optometry. Someone who is scared to make that jump from the private sector into the academic environment and do this full time, can one really make a full-time career out of this?
Definitely.
Because you're like a mom, a wife, this amazing superstar lecturer, researcher, doctor. You seem to be in a happy space. You come alive when you talk about the stuff that you've done, and I'm like, wow, this is your career.
Listen, if you have a passion for it, nothing's going to hold you back. So, and even that first step shouldn't hold you back. If you decide that I want to be a teacher and I want to teach, then nothing's going to hold you back. You are going to try. You're going to try, even if it means you're starting from the bottom and doing a master's and getting your feet into it. And there's no such thing where it's so limited. We all, universities are craving for academia.
Wow.
Every university craves for academia. Come in as a part-time member. Bring in your expertise as a part-time member. Decide if you want to stay on. There's never such a thing where there's such a big discrepancy between private and academia. Or, do you know what I'm trying to say?
I hear you. Guys, if you're listening to it, or if you're watching this, really, optometry is beyond just opening up an optometry practice and thinking that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. There's so much, as Dr. Hasrod, I must get used to calling you doctor. It's a proven case study that you could be young.
And you don't need to exclude the two. So I still locum.
There we go.
I still locum for a lovely practice. So I'm still into the whole I still want to see what's happening in optometry.
So it's not this or that.
It's not isolated.
They can literally coexist.
And you need to coexist because you need to know what's happening out there as well. You can't give a lecture and talk about things, but you don't know what's happening in the practice down the road.
I like that.
You don't know what type of patient is sitting in your chair, but you want to give them a theoretical background of the patient sitting.
I like that.
You need to be able to have experience in private to teach.
I like that. That's actually very powerful. Because especially in the context of South Africa, for example, where there's so many cultures. In actual fact, Africa, there's so many cultures. And being able to be on both sides, because the type of patients that you guys are seeing here at the university
is different.
It's different from a private practice sometimes. The language dynamics, the barriers, socioeconomic barriers that might exist between people that will come for eye services at the university versus what happens in the private practice. It's so different, and so it's so important what you're raising, that you get the experience of both.
Of doing both.
Wow. Well, what's next for you though?
Oh, I'm busy with my therapeutic hours now. So I did that course. So we're trying to that's the next step for optometrists as general. Okay? Getting the therapeutics course up and running, getting your therapeutic hours, because that's the next step for optometrists as general. So I think that's what I'm busy working on.
Do you, optometrists up north, West Africa, and further north, their program is a 6-year course, and they graduate as doctors of optometry, and they do 1 year internship as well post that 6 year. Whereas in South Africa, it's a 4-year degree, and we graduate as optometrists, and those that are interested in doing the therapeutics course, they go and do that further. Do you feel that optometry should be a 5 or 6 year course, in your opinion?
So they are looking at recalculating and changing it to include therapeutics. That is the next step for optometry as a whole. So because the HPCSA approved it, and we have to have therapeutics at some point, that will change. So it might be a 5-year degree, and then you do your clinical time to gain your experience.
Yes.
So we are getting there as well.
Wow.
Things are changing. Things have to change. You have to get with the time.
And technology, do you feel that there's a lag behind with regards optometrists and the embracing of technology?
No, I don't think so. I think
Or are we
there.
We're there.
Maybe there's a lack of exposure.
Okay.
There's a lack of exposure, but I think in terms of knowing what is out there, our optometrists are quite jacked up in that sense. I mean, again, we were at the World Council of Optometry, and it's not like we were sitting there and thinking, oh, we've never seen that before. We don't know what that is.
You belong there.
We're there. I think we are there. I think maybe just a lack of exposure to it.
How can we collaborate? Private sector and academia.
In what way?
Do you feel like there's enough working together currently? Or is the only time where we're working together
at a conference?
Is either at a conference or when lecturers, business owners come and do clinical work here? Do you think that's enough? Or is there room for more?
There's room for more, but I must admit, with COVID happening and with this whole online lecturing happening, I think it's kind of bridging that gap, because you'd find that a private optometrist has difficulty to kind of take time away from the schedule, or academia as well. But if it is an online lecture and it's at 8 o'clock in the evening, you can bring them together.
Okay.
So I think the online platform has allowed us to bridge that gap between academia and private.
Guys, if you're in private practice and you're asking yourself, how can I contribute more, towards the academic environment, reach out to the universities. There's 4 in South Africa. There's lots of universities as well in Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, whichever country that you are part of. Get in touch with the academic institutions in your country and ask, how can you assist? How can you get more involved? Because it's no use us in the private sector sitting there with our opinions, thinking that, oh, this is not happening at the academic environments, or this is happening, and then we're not actually getting involved with what's happening, and vice versa. That the people in the academic environments needs to know what's going on in the private sector, so that we can actually work together in taking optometry, eye care as a whole, to a whole nother level. Dr. Hasrod, I'm inspired by you. You literally inspire me.
Thank you.
You're not an average optometrist, and you should be very proud of what you have achieved. And we know that your best years are still ahead of you. The country, the continent, is going to see more and more of you, speaking at conferences, doing amazing things here on the continent of Africa and beyond. So as iAfrica Media, we wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you so much.
May your influence keep expanding beyond the borders of South Africa, so that people sitting in Morocco, Tunisia, they can get to encounter or experience the wonderful work that you are doing.
Thank you so much.
All right, and are you available for mentorship?
Just knock on my door, but you know where to find me.
There you have it. If you're a young optometrist, newly qualified, or still at university, reach out to these amazing leaders like Dr. Hasrod, who are readily available to reach out to you guys to say, hey, I'm available to help. So don't hesitate, reach out to her. People that want to connect with you, how can
Yeah,
they
so
connect?
you
Are you
can.
on social media?
I'm on social media. I need to change my handle.
Obviously.
Actually. But I'm on social media. UJ. Just Google and you get my UJ email address as well.
Perfect.
Send me a mail and we'll chat.
Perfect. Everyone, thank you very, very much for tuning in. This was yet another episode of Africa Media.
Thank
IK
you.
Moments. It's only a pleasure. It's only a pleasure, Dr. Hasrod.
Lovely
Make sure.
chatting to you. We can't wait another 10 years before this happens.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to make it more often. I have to actually interview you and your brother because
Yes.
you're both in the IK industry.
Yes.
Do connect with us as Africa Media across different social media platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we can't wait to get into your country to talk about eye care and all related topics in your country. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.